Good evening, everybody. We just want to be aware of your time and be respectful of your time. So we are going to go ahead and get started this evening. So if we can begin in prayer, let us remember that we're in the holy presence of God. In the name of Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. And let's pray that we have a great end of the school year here at LaSalle and for all of your boys at home as well. St. John Baptist de LaSalle, pray for us. Live Jesus in our hearts forever. In the name of Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. I am Mrs. Stott. I am Assistant Dean of Student Life here at LaSalle. I am going to be speaking first, and then Mr. Bob Zanio, our athletic administrator, will speak during our second half. And then all of this will be supplemented by a bunch of our wonderful students that you can see here that we will introduce when we get to that point. If you have any questions tonight, the best thing to do is to type them into the chat. So if you type into the chat, we do have two of our technology staff that will be putting things into the chat as well. So go ahead and follow along there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So as I said, I'm Assistant Dean of Student Life here at LaSalle. I run our club and activity program as well as student council. I'm also a proud member of our science department where I teach all levels of chemistry as well as forensic science that I started a few years ago as an elective. So tonight we are going to talk about getting involved at LaSalle, and that really is three different areas. We are going to cover two of them tonight. We have three areas to get involved in at LaSalle. We have athletics, clubs, and activities, as well as mission and ministry. We are not going to talk about mission and ministry here tonight. Your students will hear a lot more about mission and ministry during orientation. So we have one full day devoted to mission and ministry during orientation. But athletics and clubs and activities really hit the ground running before the school year begins, in terms of athletics at least. So we will start talking about those two things tonight. And again, for those of you that just joined us, this is being recorded. And if you would like to write anything into the chat window, then we would be happy to answer questions along the way as we go. So I'm going to first start talking about our club and activity program here at LaSalle. So we currently have over 70 clubs and activities here at LaSalle, with some of our clubs having over 50 members. And we offer clubs in various categories, and they can be listed here. And our technology staff will actually also put the link to our website that has all of our clubs and activities. We do update them every summer. So there are actually 6 new clubs being formed next year. So those ones will be listed on the website a little bit later on in the summer. So all of these clubs meet during Wednesdays during what we call community time. And I hope that you've heard about this already, but if you haven't, I figured I would talk a little bit about it. And then my students on our panel later, I'm sure will talk a little bit more about this as well. So our clubs and activities meet during Wednesday community time. It's 1 hour in the middle of the school day. So we take our 60-minute classes on Wednesdays and we move them into 50-minute classes to allow for an hour to be reserved during the school day. So that 10:55 to 11:55 block is reserved for these clubs and activities. Some of the clubs and activities, like our competitive ones, robotics, speech and debate, mock trial, chess team, mathletes, the ones that go and actually compete, they will also meet after school or on the weekends or both. Those club moderators will be in communication with students about when they meet and things like that when they go and sign up for those clubs and activities. But most of our clubs and activities meet just during the school day block. So something that is new this past year is that any students that travel with a club or activity, just like our athletes, need to register for an Apprise account. Mr. Bob Zanio is going to talk more about this Apprise account later on in the session because all of our athletes will need to register there. But this is where we house all of our club information as well. So when students are traveling with moderators, we have them all housed on this Apprise account, which is an app for students as well as moderators to be able to keep track of medical information, contact information, and things like that. So you'll hear more about that later in this session. But in terms of moderators, our moderators really guide those clubs and activities, but we encourage students to be involved as much as possible with the running of the club meetings during the community time hour, especially. And all of these clubs and activities have a Schoology space where moderators communicate with their members. This is our learning management system, or part of our learning management system, rather. And all of our activities as well as our classes have spaces within the Schoology space. So this is where we use really mostly now to communicate with students about everything. And you'll hear more about that this fall. If you're interested in forming a new club, so let's say that a student comes to our activity fair and they want to form a new club because one of our 70 clubs doesn't seem to be a fit for them, then they're able to form a new club as well. So these are the steps that students would take to form a new club. And like I said, we do have about 3 to 6 every single year that are formed. We have a large amount forming next year. Some are forming as part of our concentration program, and then others are forming based on student interest, like you see here. So if students are interested in forming a new club, then they could contact me, write a proposal, get signatures from students that are interested, and deliver it to me. And some of our new clubs, Travis Manion Foundation Club, we're really excited about this one. It started at the end of last year and has had huge turnout this year. We are forming a Celtic club as well as a meditation club next year, two very different causes, of course, for that. Besides clubs and activities, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about our student council sponsored activities as well. So student council is, of course, one of our clubs and activities. However, elections happen for student council. So it's a little bit different than our other clubs that students can just show up for. So I am the head moderator for student council as well, and I run our large student events. So this is a snapshot of all the big events that we do throughout the year. All of these dates, or most of these big dates, are already published on our school calendar. I also encourage you to download the LSCHS app. It's great for clubs and activities as well as big events like this. There's an athletics tab on it as well. And coming out in the next couple weeks, we'll have more of the dates programmed in. But all of the large dates for dances, the proms, things like that are already published on our school calendar. And then for students that are interested in joining student council for next year that are incoming freshmen, we hold elections in mid-September. So our other students have already been elected. Our student body president is actually on today, and he will talk to you more, I'm sure, about student council. But for students that are incoming students that are already involved in student council at their current grade schools, then if they're interested in running, we allow them to have about 3-4 weeks to get to know their classmates and their homeroom moderators and the students in their homeroom before we run those elections for freshmen. And then for you, I know it's a lot of information that we're covering tonight. This is not the last time that, of course, you'll see us. But to stay informed in general for LaSalle, especially for club and activity things, athletics, these are some of the main school websites that we have. So we have a Twitter account. We have 2 Instagram accounts, one for students and one for the entire LaSalle community. And then every Friday, parents and students will receive an Explorers Express in their email, and you are automatically registered for that. So as long as you don't unsubscribe, you should be receiving those every single Friday starting in the fall, I believe. And students will receive the student bulletin every morning at 6:30 as well. So these are all places that students can go to find the information that we're discussing. So once the clubs and activities get up and running for the year, that's the best place to find that information. We also have TVs all over the school that show all of the important information. So any graphics that you can see in all these different places are also published in the school building so that as students are walking around, they can really see what's going on as well. And if you have any questions throughout the year, I'm the best contact for clubs and activities and student council events. Moving on to our student panel, and just a reminder too for people that just joined, if you would like to type a question, you can type it into the chat bar. So if you have a question, feel free to type it into the chat bar down here. And I'm going to move on to our student panel for clubs and activities. So I have 2 students that are joining us tonight. So Matt and Dom, if you want to take yourselves off of mute and put your camera on. First, if you could just introduce yourself and what you are involved in clubs and activities wise at LaSalle. If you're involved with athletics, then you're welcome to include that here as well.
Yeah, so like Mrs. Stott said, I'm Matthew Sorge. I am the student body president for the 2024-2025 school year. And throughout my 3 years here at LaSalle, I've been involved with football, wrestling, lacrosse for the sports, and then for like clubs and other things like that, I've been involved with student ambassadors, the Mission and Ministry Service Team, Student Council, and the Travis Manion Foundation Club.
So hello, everybody. Again, like Mrs. Stott said, my name is Dom Carfagno. I'm also a junior in the class 2025. some of the activities that I'm involved in at LaSalle are I'm on the investment club team, also on the competition team for the investment club. I'm also in the various sports clubs that we have, such as Spike Ball Club and Ultimate Frisbee Club. I'm also in the mission and ministry team like Sorge as well. So those are some of the initiatives that I'm involved in here at LaSalle.
Great. Thanks so much, guys. The next question that I have for you, people that are in the audience, just feel free again to chat anything that you'd like the guys to answer as well. I do have a couple questions for them, but if you'd like them to answer something specific or me before I pass on to athletics later, feel free to put it in there. So what I'd like you guys to answer, Matt and Dom, is what do you think our club program's greatest strength is in your opinion? So like just thinking about our clubs in general, our activities in general, thinking more about activities and less about athletics for this question. What do you think our biggest strength is?
I'd have to say the way that you can like get involved with the community and the brotherhood at LaSalle, especially like through the Travis Mahan Foundation Club with me, you get to realize what LaSalle really is all about and like helping others. And I found that I have a passion for that. But I also like became friends with people that I never would have expected to become friends with just because of this club. And I found like role models through the leaders in this club, like some of the upperclassmen and the adult leaders. But the main thing I'd have to say is the brotherhood. Like you really, really see how it's in shape in clubs like this.
Yeah, for me, I would say the biggest strength is the versatility that LaSalle clubs have to offer, and the fact that you're not really closed off to one club or one activity, even for just a single Wednesday morning. And it's the fact that you can go to different clubs if you want to go to investment club and hear a guest speaker, and then you want to go play spike ball or go to open gym, like that's all available for you. So I feel like it's really cool that you're able to be able to go to different clubs and different activities to be able to see what you like without having to be committed to one activity for a day.
Thanks, guys. And then I think you started to answer this, but why do you think it's important for students to get involved at LaSalle in general?
Yeah, so in general, I mean, LaSalle, like there's for going to my freshman year, I always saw that LaSalle said there's something for everyone. And that's something that you don't really realize until you try and put yourself out there. Um, so like for people to get involved, like you get to share your talents with everyone else and get to find what you're passionate about. And for like because you get to do that in ways that other places you don't, like if you just sit around, you won't be able to get that. I think getting involved is something very important for every student to do.
I mean, like Sorge said in the first question, the brotherhood that you get from going to these clubs and activities is really, you won't get it anywhere else. So it's really cool to see people that have similar interests of you and that are really like the initiative that you're working on really come together and kind of get that sense of brotherhood that you wouldn't have in a traditional space everywhere else. In classrooms, there are that brotherhood feeling, but really getting together with people that have the same ideas and the same interests as you is really, really a cool feeling.
That's great. And then the last thing, Dom, can you talk a little bit about the St. Joe's Investment Club competition that you guys worked on this year?
Yeah, so for the investment club, in the beginning half of the year, we had various guest speakers come in and talk to us about different fields in investing, like risk management and different strategies to invest. And the second half of the year, we had the opportunity to create a team and go to the St. Joe's University investment competition, which is a competition where you get $1 million fake dollars and you have to come up with your own strategy and implement that strategy, and then go down to St. Joe's and actually present your stock choices and the rationale behind those stock choices. So that was kind of a more hands-on club, I would say, here at LaSalle. That really caused me to go to that club every single week. Otherwise, I would have went to other clubs. And so we went down to the university, or St. Joe's University, sorry, and we competed against 9 or 10 other schools, like Catholic schools around here, and we won. And we won $5,000 to start our own student-led trading fund for the investment club. So that's another thing that we're extremely proud of.
Thanks so much. I appreciate both of you having your time here tonight with us. We're going to move on to athletics. So Mr. Bob Zanio is going to be presenting about athletics.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you tonight to talk about all the fun that is athletics at LaSalle. I have a few of our multi-sport athletes with us who you're going to hear from throughout the night. Joey O'Brien, Owen Sherry, and Shay Crawford will be called upon to answer some athletic questions. But my goal for you tonight is to kind of give you a brief overview of the opportunities your sons are going to have when they come here in the fall and what we offer, what to do if plan A doesn't work, and then some just reminders about important dates and important medical information that we need ahead of time if your sons want to get involved in some summer workouts and things like that. So to start, those of you who know the school a little bit, have been around and have been in some athletic contests, you know that we have a rich tradition of athletics. We're the only team in the Catholic League that's won a championship in every sport. We have a lot of offerings. Our guys get involved. Our guys compete at a high level. We have a lot of high level coaches. It's a great overall supportive environment where all 44 of our teams compete. My staff, myself, I'm the athletic administrator. I've been at LaSalle for 12 years. I spent the first 9 coaching various sports and a math department member as well. I still teach one class. That is the only sane hour of the day that I have, the only hour that I'm in control. The rest of the staff on the screen here. So I have an assistant for each season, basically my second in command, if you will, assisting with games and other administrative duties. Mr. Gary Nolan's a member of our math department, helps me out in the fall. Mr. Joe Leitner is on our football staff. He helps me out in the winter. And Mr. PJ Quinn is a longtime math teacher, helps me out in the spring. Dr. Dave Crow is our longtime athletic trainer. And then Mr. Jeremy Butt helps all of our teams coordinate different various strength activities and schedules in the weight room throughout the season. Just kind of a general mantra of who we are at LaSalle in terms of athletics. So if you see the statement on the screen here, it's obviously a significant part of your son's life at some point, potentially at LaSalle, whether it's participant, spectator, whether, no matter the involvement, your son's going to experience that sense of pride, excitement, and accomplishment, right? We stress the idea of being a student athlete. Right, they learn to face problems, analyze situations. It's much bigger than the W's and L's. It's all about the experience and what we can, kind of teach the young men as they move forward throughout their 4-year career. You're going to hear in a bit from some of our student athletes. So as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, we have a lot of offerings. We have 19 varsity sports, a total of 44 teams, 15 JV sports, 5 standalone freshman sports, 7 intramural sports that we're constantly trying to evolve, and we'll talk more about that later. And as I mentioned, we're the league to win a championship in every sport offer, which I consider a tremendous accomplishment. Those of you that have been on our campus on an open house or at various games, some of this won't come as a surprise to you, but we do have 8 playing fields on campus. We have 3 synthetic turf fields, 5 tennis courts, 2 pools, a 6-lane track, a gym, a multi-purpose gym, a rowing center, and a 2-level fitness center. So as far as our offerings, I'd like to say we do have some of the most elite, offerings in the tri-state area. Believe it or not, some of our freshman sports are playing on turf surfaces, which is it's a huge accomplishment. We have a brand new turf field that we just used, started this year for soccer and baseball. It's been a great asset to us, allows us a ton of flexibility. We haven't had to cancel many games due to weather, which is, again, another layer of flexibility. But, I'd like to say we have some state-of-the-art facilities across the board in all that we do. I want to kind of give you a brief overview of each season, and then again, we'll have some of our student athletes speak. So when your sons get to LaSalle in the fall, the opportunities that could await them, we offer soccer at the freshman, JV, and varsity levels. We offer football at the freshman, JV, and varsity levels. Cross country is a varsity sport, but it's open to all. This year, we had about 20 freshmen involved in it, which was great. Rugby sevens is open to all. It's a varsity sport, but again, we have 25 to 30 freshmen who tend to try out for that. The good news with cross country and rugby sevens, it's kind of like open in the sense that if guys get cut from other sports or option A doesn't work, a lot of guys tend to go try cross country or try rugby sevens, even if they have no experience. Golf is a junior varsity and varsity sport, and then water polo is junior varsity and varsity. So just because your sons are coming in as freshmen doesn't mean they can't try out for water polo or golf or some of these sports that are just JV and varsity. We have plenty of freshmen that get involved each fall season in those sports, which, again, a ton of offerings. I want to open it up first to Owen Sherry, who actually is one of our fall athletes. Owen, if you could pop your mic on and camera.
All right.
Owen, can you speak a little bit about just being a fall athlete? Maybe also thinking back to your freshman year. I know you're a junior going into senior year here, but just kind of thinking back to that anticipation coming in, knowing you wanted to try out for a fall sport and kind of what that felt like?
Yeah, so I'm a varsity water polo player. Obviously freshman year, I've started playing it all the way through now, which is junior year. What was different about this? Came in early summer to start practicing. Coach reached out to all the parents really early, so we all got to get that experience in early in the pool and kind of get to know each other, which was amazing because coming to LaSalle, it's also like obviously a great new experience, but you get like this entire new group of friends that you have to start like socializing with and stuff. So touching early with like a fall sport, which starts practicing in the summer usually, is just amazing to have like this group of friends you can come in with and just get to know right off the bat.
Great. Shay's also Shay Crawford is also a fall sports member on our soccer team. Shay, question for you. What do you think one of the biggest challenges is, especially being a fall athlete, starting the school year, trying to start off right with your academics and things like that? What do you think one of the biggest challenges is, especially as a fall athlete?
Well, I think for many of the student athletes, the hardest thing is just balancing your workload that you have with all of your different classes and just trying to get off to a fresh start. But I think like the biggest thing is like the best thing about LaSalle is you have support from so many teachers and your coaches that if you give them like the email ahead of time, they're lenient enough, they understand, they know that you're involved in other things. But it's also like important to prioritize the schoolwork as well.
Absolutely. Talk about the winter a little bit. So as far as winter offerings, we do offer basketball at all three levels, freshman, JV, and varsity. I would say it's probably one of the most competitive teams to try to make. Swimming, varsity sport, open to all. We have a ton of freshmen that always try out. Squash is a varsity sport, open to all as well. Indoor track tends to be another one where maybe some guys who get cut from option A, they thought they were going to come in and make the basketball team. Indoor track tends to have a lot of guys. Hockey, we offer it some years depending on numbers 3 levels, some years depending on numbers 4 levels. Again, one of our more successful teams in the school. Bowling, again, one of our stronger teams. We probably will have about 30 guys try out for it, from freshmen all the way through seniors. And then wrestling, junior varsity and varsity, but again, a ton of freshmen get involved in that as well. Joey O'Brien is one of our multi-sport athletes. So he plays football during the fall. He plays basketball during the winter. Joe, can you talk a little bit about, being a multi-sport athlete and how that's helped you get to kind of where you are, right now as a rising junior?
So basically playing multi-sports is like a good look on you. Like it shows that you can do multiple things, but also comes with like its own like challenges. Like Shay said, you're gonna have to balance everything, like with your school stuff, and then out of school stuff. Like you don't really get a break that much, but at the end of it, it's really worth it, I think.
What do you think the biggest challenge is being a multi-sport athlete, right? You go right, you have your summer, you go right into football, you get a week off, you go right into basketball. While it's certainly great for your overall well-being and recruitment and things like that, what do you think one of the,
Probably just the workload on your body, because like LaSalle is like, we're good. So you play for a long time. It's just like on your body for a while. So it's hard on your body.
finding that balance, which
Yeah.
you've figured it out so far, which is
Yeah, a little bit.
which is impressive. You play both of them at a very high level. On the spring sports, so spring for me is probably the busiest time of year. We have a lot of sports going on at once. Weather's always a challenge. It's always the most fun, leading right into summer. But lacrosse, we offer JV and varsity. Volleyball, we offer JV and varsity. Tennis, JV and varsity. Track and field, again, varsity open to all. You will find a lot of guys that do track and field tend to go right from cross country to indoor track to outdoor track. Not required, obviously, but a lot of guys do all three. Rugby in the spring is different than the rugby that's in the fall. So we have 4 levels of rugby. We introduced a freshman rugby team starting last year, and that's been a great success. They're actually playing in the state championship for freshmen this weekend. So that's a huge accomplishment to get to that game, with a relatively new building team at the freshman level. Baseball, we do have freshman, JV, and varsity, 3 levels. And then rowing, There is varsity and freshman novice. So freshman novice really kind of, we have a learn to row program. So rowing's kind of a multi-season sport. The fall is kind of catered towards, regattas for the high level guys and learn to row for new guys. So rowing also tends to be one of those spots where if guys get cut from plan A and are looking to find plan B or find a new group of friends, you wouldn't believe how many guys try rowing, having no experience whatsoever, learn to love it. It's certainly a lot of time to and from the river every day, but we get a lot of guys that get involved as freshmen, and then 4 years later they're invested, they're getting college scholarships. So just another option for your sons if plan A doesn't work out, because I'm sure not a lot of them have been on the river at many times in their lives. So let's say plan A doesn't work out, right? You heard from 3 athletes on here that kind of have their niche: water polo, soccer, things like that. What if that doesn't work out? So what we've tried to do over the last couple of years is try to continue to make a robust intramural program. So we will run intramural basketball for all grades multiple times throughout the school year. It helps count towards their physical education credit, but also get your sons involved in something competitive with guys at their level, if you will. Wiffle ball is offered in the spring. Ultimate Frisbee we offer occasionally. We try to offer that twice a year if the numbers permit. We're trying to evolve that more into a club sport. So that's been one of our initiatives in the last calendar year or so, trying to get more interest in things like that to create more club sports. Dodgeball we offer in the fall. Badminton, bago, and fencing. Fencing, we have had multiple instructors throughout the last couple of years. It's a unique one that we try to offer when we can. And then we actually added this spring, which was a huge hit, intramural golf. So we teamed up with a local course, the Abington Club, and we had guys going out there every Wednesday, moderated by one of our adults who had some golf experience. We had about 16 guys go out every Wednesday for the last 8 weeks. It just ended last week. A good overall experience. Again, different group of guys, something to do in the spring rather than going home and doing nothing after school. So it was a great addition to our intramural program at LaSalle. Again, I see some questions coming through the chat. If you have questions about athletics, please feel free to fire away as we're talking in there. Either I or one of the young gentlemen on here will certainly answer whatever you have. One of my favorite parts of this presentation is, again, your son comes in, he wants to be on the basketball team, the football team, whatever it might be. How else can your son get involved? There's a ton of ways to get involved. You heard from Matt Sorge earlier. Matt's one of our many lacrosse managers. There's a lot of things you can do if you love athletics, but you maybe aren't able to compete at a high level, or you get cut and all your hopes and dreams in that moment are gone. There's a ton of things you can do. We have team managers at all levels across the board that keep stats, that film, that help with our social media. We have a WXP department downstairs, which if you've seen some of our creations on Twitter, social media, the school newspaper, we have guys that do all this kind of freelance stuff for the school, whether it be taking pictures at games. If you go to some of our games, you'll see guys at a basketball game across the baseline. They're all of our guys getting footage to put out there on our platforms and things like that. That's all student created content, which is huge. And our social media department, if you look at some of our Twitter pages, I try to take on a lot. Some of my assistant athletic directors do, but a lot of that's student produced. You'll see some Instagram pages, Twitter pages that are, primarily run by students, with our approval. So if they have an interest in sports and media and broadcasting, we have guys announce our baseball games. We have guys announce our basketball games. So if they have a passion for sports that's beyond, making a team, there's certainly avenues for them to get involved, and we encourage guys to get involved in other ways. Back to our student panel for a second. Obviously sports takes up a good chunk of your time at LaSalle. What else do you do at LaSalle, and how do you find time to balance sports, academics, getting involved, social life? Owen, we'll start with you. How do you balance all this being a high-level athlete?
So I do water polo and swim, which is nearly full year. I mean, I get spring off, but that's like last part of the year, so it's not too crazy. Balancing everything, like social life, sports, all that, it's pretty hard because for swim, we have, I think, 10 practices a week, counting mornings. So it can be kind of brutal, but I mean, social life's usually not that bad because the guys on your team with you, they have the same schedule as you. So whenever you have a break, they'll probably have a break. And I mean, even if not, like if you're not too great of friends with the guys on your team and you want to hang out with like another group, you'll usually have weekends off. You'll have at least one like full day a week off. Like Sundays is what we have. I mean, it's not too bad to manage that. Work wise, obviously LaSalle's pretty like extreme with their curriculum. Junior year for me, it's obviously been hard because junior year is said to be the worst year. But balancing my workload, I mean, the coaches are extremely understandable because most of them are teachers here anyway. And they'll completely understand if you need to take time off to study, time off to do some work. Obviously, you can't do it all the time because we still have to be dedicated to our sports, but we're student athletes here. So really that student part comes first. And I think we highlight that really well here.
Joey, what about you? How do you find balance with all this, trying to get involved in more than just sports and making sure, you have a well-rounded resume come college application time?
You gotta you gotta take advantage of your free periods. Like for me, if I practice and I don't take advantage of my free periods, I'll be up till 10 o'clock doing homework after I get home at 7. But if I do my free periods during school, they give you an hour, and they give you multiple free periods a day. So you should only use one for lunch, and then you should be doing your homework the other ones. And if you do that, then you should be good and you shouldn't have to worry about really doing homework at home.
Ellen brought up a good point earlier. We do take pride in the fact that 16 of our 19 head coaches, and there are multiple underclass head coaches that are full-time faculty members in the building, so they do understand the daily grind and demands, which is a huge part of it. They're relatable. They're in the building. They have an ear to the ground. So that is one of the things we're most proud about, is that 16 of our 19 varsity head coaches are in the building directly. Shay, what about you? How do you find time to balance all this, get involved in other things other than soccer, find a balance for all this?
I think Owen said it the best. He was saying how we are all student athletes and the student comes first, and even talking about how coaches are understanding because they're also in school with us. Most of them are in school with us throughout the day. They see that we have a busy workload and understand where we're coming from. Even with them, they have things to grade and people to meet with. And the biggest thing is to meet with your teachers. And many times I've had to meet with a teacher before practice. I've just texted or emailed my coach and said, I'll be running a few minutes late, and they're completely understanding. And then for the social side of it, you definitely make your friends through your sport, but through those sports, you make friends through the other sports too, kind of create a bond, being athletes and being students in the classroom and also on the field. And one of the biggest things and one of the most fun things is just being able to go to the other sports games, like especially the football games in the beginning of the year, especially as freshmen. Many of the kids go, get excited in the student section, cheer your classmates on, and even the other games like lacrosse games and all of that stuff.
Shay brings up a good point there. I do think one of the beautiful things that we have, you'll see full sports teams going to support other sports teams. You'll see the whole basketball team at a football game. You'll see a whole football team at a lacrosse game. That brotherhood that gets talked about all the time becomes tangible when you go to some of our sporting events. I'm going to take a minute and just scroll through some of the questions in the chat as we kind of progress through this meeting here. So one of the questions I saw was, do you recommend students trying out for multiple sports in the spring? So the PIAA calendar basically allows all spring sports to kind of start on the same day. So it is a little hard to try out for, let's say, lacrosse and tennis because most of those tryouts are on the same day. Now, there are certain exceptions to it. I would say most guys tend to try out for their primary sport or one that they're more experienced in. And then I would say the fallback option in the spring, like outdoor track almost has like a rolling roster, if you will, where, if your son tries out for lacrosse or tries out for tennis and gets cut, the other, like the most feasible option is to go try out for volleyball, because the hard part is if your son goes through 5 days of a lacrosse tryout, the tennis team's already picked. He gets cut from lacrosse, wants to go try out for tennis, but he wasn't there for tryout. So you kind of have to pick and choose a little bit. Now there is some leeway, some special circumstances, but the calendar usually lines up where like all spring sports start at the same time. Conversely, in the fall, it's staggered a little bit. So golf and football get to start on August 5th this year, which is a little bit earlier than the rest of the fall sports. So, if your son happened to try out for golf or football, didn't make it, there's an opportunity to go try out for something else. I would say rugby sevens, which is in the fall, as well as rowing, are kind of ones that start a little bit later towards the end of August. So there's a little bit more leeway in the fall to try multiple things as opposed to the winter and the spring. I'm going to harp on this in a second when we start talking about a prize and some medical information that's required. But then one of the next questions I saw was, can freshmen participate in training sessions for fall sports? So the rules per PIAA are a freshman can participate in summer workouts provided the following things. He has to graduate from grade school. So I imagine for most of your sons, that's mid-June. In addition to that, they have to enroll in Apprise, which I'm going to explain in a second, which houses all our medical information. In Apprise, there's a physical form that needs to be filled down and filled out by a physician. So in order for your son to step on any playing surface in the summer with any of our teams, he has to have graduated from grade school and have this Apprise account created where you're putting him on a tryout roster, you're consenting that he's participating in stuff, with the main thing being a doctor's physical filled out, which I'm going to explain here in a few minutes. So the easiest way to obtain that information is to reach directly out to coaches. Our coaches do expect, especially our fall coaches, because that's the next upcoming season, do expect you to reach out. All their info is on our athletic pages, so it is not frowned upon to reach out to the soccer coach or football coach or basketball coach to ask about potential summer workouts. Again, for freshmen, there's usually a little bit less. Maybe it's once or twice here and there throughout the course of a couple of weeks. It's not going to be, football is probably a little heavier than others, but there will be opportunities for just about every sport. There are some summer days that are busier than a normal school day, believe it or not, with off-season workouts. Probably the most important part. So if you've been zoning out on me tonight, all the information you're absorbing, this is probably the most important slide on here. And all this information will be posted on the 2028 webpage. If you haven't been on there in a while, or you haven't been checking your email with some of the blasts coming out for our administrative offices, if you go on the 2028 webpage, it has a tab for kind of each facet of student life, obviously athletics being one of them. So anything I'm referencing here, I know the slide's got a lot of information on it. If you go to that 2028 page under athletics, it has everything broken down for you, what's needed and things like that. What I want to stress here is, per PIAA rule, anybody who steps on a field in any sport has to have a physical. We use what's called the Apprise software system to house all this information. So how it'll work, right now you can go on our health and safety page or the 2028 webpage and access the Apprise link. When you click on that, you're going to be able to start pre-enrolling right now. Obviously, we're still in season for a lot of our sports. You can start filling in medical information, pull down that physical form that's going to be needed. So the only physical form we accept is the Apprise form. No PIAA forms. You don't have to Google PIAA physical. We don't accept any of that. It's the Apprise physical associated with your son's account. Again, you can start logging in now to make those accounts. What I will do is I'm going to roll the system over around 6/1. At that time, I will start formally accepting accounts. I'm going to try to give everybody, a good 2 weeks between 6/1 and graduations to get their stuff in and get physicals in and start getting all the paperwork and things like that in to allow your sons to participate in tryouts. If your son, workouts. If your son isn't participating in workouts over the summer, right? He just wants to roll up and try out for a sport, that still needs to be done. So we do require, as a school, every single student that's enrolled in the school has an Apprise account with a physical, whether you are on a sports team or not. As Mrs. Stott referenced, a lot of guys go on school trips. We have a lot of teams that go away. We have a lot of activities that go away. So whether your son plays a sport or not, this account needs to be made. Information needs to be put in there. It is all HIPAA compliant, and that physical from this Apprise account has to be filled out by a doctor. If you look on the screen, they do accept, the first date we can accept on that physical is 5/1/24. Anything prior to that, we cannot accept per PIAA policy, state law, LaSalle policy. So if your son's due for an upcoming physical, great. If he's just had it, doctor's offices will usually fill it out if it's within a couple months. The other unique opportunity we have a nurse practitioner that comes to school over the summer. Those dates are published on that 2028 webpage. She'll be in about 5 or 6 times throughout the summer. It is a small out-of-pocket cost of $40, but I try to encourage all of our current student athletes, incoming freshmen, go make an appointment if you can afford the $40, get it done in June, and then you're not worried about it for the rest of the calendar year. So that physical will carry you through that calendar year. Then you repeat the process over and over again. So for your sons as incoming freshmen, you get this done in June, you're on a good 4-year cycle to continue to get this done. And it's going to have the same process year in and year out. But again, we cannot allow them to step on a field without it. We're asking that all general students have this in by 9/13. That'll allow some time to chase some stragglers down and things like that. But, the first or second week of school there, if everybody can get in the Apprise system, and again, it has medical information at coaches and moderators' fingertips should something happen, right? That's all it's for. It's there so that we can get, someone gets injured at a school event, at a dance, at whatever it might be, coaches or somebody has that information at their fingertips to get a hold of you, put in medical incident to alert me and my training staff. It's really a great system that we've used now for the last 5 or 6 years. And again, to reference all this, I know it's a lot. you can refer to that 2028 webpage to get all this medical information. But I can't stress enough, get it done early. Don't wait until the last minute. If your son tries to walk up to a tryout in August, we're not going to let him if he doesn't have all this medical stuff taken care of on the back end, with the physical being the main priority. Have to have that physical done ASAP to get on the field for workouts, obviously non-negotiable for workouts, and then again for a tryout. So once it's done for the year, it's done. You don't have to do it if he's a multi-sport athlete. Get it done in June. You're done for the calendar year. If you have personal questions about that as you navigate it throughout the summer, you can always personally call me on my office or shoot me an email. I'm happy to kind of guide you through it. But if you follow the prompts on that 2028 webpage under athletics, it will give you kind of a good indicator of what's expected. The last thing I'll say before we close it out with our student panel is we do have all of our student athletes go through an impact test for concussions. Basically, it's a baseline test that our training staff and myself have access to should your sons ever get a concussion. This is done prior to the start of the school year. So sometimes it's built into our orientations when the guys get back in the fall. Otherwise, we kind of create times for specific teams to go as a team down to our computer lab and get it done as a team. It's important just to have a baseline for your sons in case at any point they get a concussion throughout the season. We take it seriously. Our training staff is on top of this. We use it. There's concussions happen, unfortunately, weekly. This is a point of reference for us and doctors and things like that to make sure, again, your sons are safe and then return to play in a manner that's safe. Joe, we'll kind of close it out with this question. So far in your athletic career, what do you think has been the most impactful thing that you've taken away as a student athlete?
Probably just like the love you get from all your teachers and classmates. Like, you got the whole school riding with you. Like, nobody's ever going to say anything negative about you or your team. They're just always going to be there with you, and they always got your back. I just feel like that's huge.
Shay, what would you say so far your biggest takeaway from athletics and what it's done for you so far?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just the brotherhood that you gain through these athletics. It's not just you being friends with the freshmen, it's you being, as a freshman, becoming closer with the upperclassmen. Even if you're on the freshman team, you still have a familiar face in the hallway, just to know who to go to, ask questions, especially when you're nervous or not too sure about what's going on in the first early stages of high school. I think that's the biggest thing. And also, as Joey said, you have the whole school riding with you, and they're all supporting you. And then when you support someone on the other team, they can be supporting you as well.
Awesome. Mr. Sherry, what would you say your biggest takeaway so far, having gone through 3 years of athletics, as a student athlete? What's the biggest takeaway or most impactful thing?
I'd say kind of how it builds a form of a schedule in your mind. It kind of gives you a time followed, gets you good with time. I don't know the word to say, but gets you showing up places early, gets you knowing when to go places on your own. Really, you kind of, I don't want to say you're on your own, obviously with your parents at LaSalle, but it kind of gets you to look at things on your own more, kind of learn what dates you have to go to, what meetings you have to show up to. It gets you on this this good rigor schedule that you really have to follow. So I feel like it's pretty impactful.
Awesome. Appreciate those thoughtful responses. And I'll reiterate, athletics is one small sliver of what we do at LaSalle. I do think we do a lot of things at a high level, athletics being one small portion of that. But we stress, again, the idea of being a student athlete, grades are pulled every week softly. I'm communicating with coaches. We do take every aspect of being a student athlete very serious. And, we hope your sons are the next chapter of those student athletes that come through our hallways that lead to great success on and off the field. I do want to thank our student panel for taking the time out tonight after a busy school day. It is exam week, and these guys took an hour out of their nights to provide some insight. Again, listening to them and hearing them is much more important than hearing me and Mr. Stott talk. So I do want to take a moment to thank those guys for their insights and, potential role models for your sons as they enter the halls next year. You'll see in the chat a lot of answers to a lot of questions. But again, as you navigate throughout the summer, if you have specific questions about a sport, about a prize, about if you're missing something, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. You'll see another set of communications coming out in the coming weeks, months throughout the summer, just touch points, reminders. You'll probably see my prize reminder in there every week. Again, nothing personal, just it takes a lot of nudging to get, over 1,100 student athletes enrolled, and any help you can provide in doing that is greatly appreciated before this fall season starts and before these off-season workouts start. We appreciate your time and attention tonight. Hopefully we answered some of your questions and concerns, and we look forward to seeing your sons here in a few short months. Thanks again.